it is important for some parents in particular to know how and when you're going to communicate, right? You might be only available for an hour every night or an hour a couple of times a week, but at least you express it to them. Best way to reach me is, and you set those guidelines, email, phone, this hour, this type of thing, okay? And of course you want to include that early and often so parents know exactly the best way to get in touch with you when there's a problem. You certainly don't want people reaching out to you at 11 o'clock at night. I hope you don't have that. Or at other times.
Has a parent that texts them after Shabbos at 11:30 on a Saturday night.
And expects an immediate response?
Yep, and
Wow.
she did not respond.
Okay, so
The teacher did not respond.
I think the teacher does need to establish
she
some
did.
guidelines. Yeah. No, that's important. There's no question that that's important. But look, hopefully, again, when parents know, part of the issue, I think, I don't want to cast aspersions on our parents. I think part of the issue, frankly, is that we need to just set those guidelines, and then hopefully parents will conform.
I give out my cell phone number to my, I teach 2-year-olds, not any,
Uh-huh.
so it's different.
So your issues tend to be more
Yes.
low-key.
So, but I tell them, I give them at orientation, I give the parents my cell phone number, but I say, please do not abuse it. If you abuse it, I will not answer. And not one parent has ever abused it.
Beautiful. I would say you probably in your survey can find out if this is the oldest child or the youngest child.
Right.
Because that will also help.
So true.
That will also help, right? How much of an advocate the parents are at that stage in the game. Now, we're past orientation, so this slide is a little bit passé. But maybe there's some things here that you could at least think about with an eye towards next year. Obviously, when parents walk in, students work up, available, different things that you can do using PowerPoint or other types of presentation just to create the type of environment. I'm here, what a lovely place this is. Imagine your child here in our classroom every single day, all the things that we do, etc. Obviously, you have to talk curriculum. But I think, frankly, that we probably should spend less time on curriculum and more time on setting tones. More time on letting parents feel that, hey, in this classroom, your child is safe, your child is warmly embraced, your child is really part and parcel, and this is what we do to engage every child in our activities, however you express that. It's a lot better than saying, well, in world history, we go from this period to this period, and in science, I don't want to sound over the top with that, but you get the idea. I've been to so many orientations like that. First of all, they're painful. They're painful for everybody. Right, the teacher probably is sweating, feeling uncomfortable. She's used to teaching third graders every day. Now all of a sudden they've morphed into these adult things. And that's a different feel to it. And you want to be comfortable, you want to be relaxed. So having a PowerPoint, making it cute, allowing them to see, having the student work out on the desk, that they can look at or leave a note or something like this. All of those things break the ice, reduce the tensions, create more positivity. And then, hopefully, you also have less of those parents that go, how come you're not teaching this and that? And as you get further into high school, you have more of that. I remember having it. It was like my second year teaching. And I was describing how I teach. I think it was Chumash, I don't remember. And there was one father that took issue with one of the commentaries that I did or did not teach. I don't even remember. And it was not pleasant. I mean, I got through it. It wasn't that bad. But a couple of parents came over to me afterwards and said, oh, that guy's tough. You did a good job, that kind of thing. Well, why deal with that? And so the more that you're focused on the actions, the feelings, that kind of thing in the classroom, typically you're going to get a positive response there. Now, this is something I think we do want to spend a few minutes on. Because as much as we recognize the importance of getting this right, it's not always so simple to do. And we all have concerns. We hopefully don't have all concerns about everybody, but there are going to be some kids in our classes that are just not doing the right thing. Okay? One of you mentioned this before. I think you said it. Right over here. The idea of not waiting for the report card. You have those concerns, you want to be on top of it. Whether you have an email system, a different system, that's totally up to you. And of course, how you then present it is also key. Especially if it's really your first conversation with the parent. It's one thing to have a brief conversation orientation. They come up to you after your little shindig and they say, hi, I'm so-and-so's mother, so-and-so's father, so nice to meet you. You're really not connecting there. You're really not. You're giving over an impression, right? But you're not getting an impression in return really, typically, because it's too hard to hold all that information. and you're certainly not engaging. So for many parents, this is your first, possibly, your first communication, unless of course you take the advice that we talked about before, where you reach out at the beginning. But regardless, how you approach the initial conversation, they might be very happy with, but at the end of the day, typically that's not how you're going to be assessed. You're going to be assessed by how you treat the problems, or how you go about solving those issues. So that's, I think, where it really matters for you to be judicious in how you approach it. And so a couple of ideas that might be useful for you. First of all, describe the problem. Try to avoid judgments. Your child is, first, for sure, avoid the diagnosis. Right? None of us are qualified, but some of us forget that. And by the way, for an administrator, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. When the teacher has already diagnosed the problem, the parent is up in arms, and it happens too often. We assume that a child who's jumping off the wall has ADHD, XYZ, some variation thereof, and we spill the beans. And then, of course, it puts the administrator in a very compromised position, depending, of course, on the aftermath of that conversation. So describing the problem is safe, and it's most constructive, right? Why we have the problem, we don't yet know. And what we'll do to solve it remains perhaps to be seen. And maybe we need to have somebody else come in to look at the child to give more insight. But at least we know we're having a problem, and this is what it looks like. And this is the frequency by which I'm seeing it. And the more specific you can be in terms of trends and other determinants, the easier I think it will be for parents to give you information that may actually cast some light on solving the issue. Okay? And what is the impact? Right? So this is perhaps where you come back to what we talked about before with the class. Most often parents want to know about the child, not about the class. But if you say, and you express it obviously in the right way, but I want you to realize that in addition to trying to help your child, I'm just trying to help you understand what's going on in the class when this happens. This is the effect of this behavior for everybody. And so that's why I'm calling you, because I'm worried about your child's performance and success. I'm also worried about the benefit, the need of the class as a whole. Okay? You can put it in there once you've expressed the first part in a constructive type of way. Why is it that this is happening? I don't know. I know what the problem is. I want the problem to stop. Your child is not bad, but what he's doing is troublesome. Your child is not difficult, is not intrinsically evil, but what she's doing hurts people's feelings. And as a result of that, we don't have the type of classroom environment that we need in order for everybody to feel safe and comfortable in class. And so the way you express it can make a big difference. And then the other piece is, parents want to know, what have you done? I'm not just here dumping on you. I want you to know I've been grappling with this for a week before I even bothered to call you. And in that week, I tried the following 3 things. And I even brainstormed with another teacher, without mentioning your daughter's name, what would you do in such a circumstance? And not only that, but I asked the principal to come and sit in and watch for a few minutes. All of this was done before I even called you. Here's another one. Oftentimes, we feel this need to jump right into a solution. And we have to realize that there are times where we might just need more time. I hear what you're saying. It sounds interesting. It sounds viable. I'd like to think about it a little bit more. Parents come in for a meeting and they expect results. If they're calling a meeting, they want to hear a plan of action then. Now, you may or may not be able to do that. You might say, I'll tell you what I'm thinking. I'll tell you what I think might work, but I really feel that a little more time would be helpful here. I'd like to see your child in, maybe if I try this, that might do the trick. And so parents need to know that you're not pushing them off indefinitely.
The second session will end in 5 minutes.
But you are at least giving it additional consideration. The key is, and this is what we talked about before with dependability, is that you tell them when they can expect to hear from you again, and then you make sure to do that. Okay, Google Calendars, any of these calendar type things, very valuable, right? Because sometimes you'll lose track otherwise. But if you remember that you need to get back to them and have something in place, then again, you're reinforcing the trust because you've shown that you're dependable. but don't feel that pressure of, because you're sitting at conferences, everything has to be decided today. Sometimes it can take a little bit longer, okay? And the last thing is to keep it going. You built your equity, you had your orientation, you did a great job at conferences, you discussed all of the things like that. If you were like a school like mine where they had only one conference, or even if you have a school that has a second conference, which tends to be, I think, usually very poorly attended by comparison. Every school is different, but even if you have a robust attendance of the second one, usually that's going to happen around February, more or less. And by then, you're finished, right? So the communication can easily, if you let it, the communication can easily drop off. So remember, as we all know this, but it's good to reinforce, we're in it for a 10-month block of time. We're not in it for 6 in terms of everything we can do to help support the child and keep the parents informed. So even if the parents do not initiate, try in terms of what it is that you are communicating to stay on top of it as best as you can until the very end and keep the parents involved, because every day is an opportunity. And the more, as we said at the beginning, the parents are aware of what's going on, the teacher's aware. You may have changes in a child's life between the beginning of the year and the end. Just because you told me certain things at the beginning doesn't necessarily mean that there aren't new factors at play. And so the more you stay informed, the better it's going to be. Okay? Now I thought, right, as we talked about before, it's not yes, it is a professional obligation, but it's really an opportunity. That's the way I try to see it. I'm not saying that I always acted out in that way or acted in that way, but I like to think about it as an opportunity, right? We have an opportunity to engage others in working with this child, and so I'm going to make the most of it. Here's some final quotes that I think you might find at least humorous to some degree. So sometimes there is that issue, and when you're done, tell me, and I have one more for you.
But then you see that the apple doesn't fall far.
That is true. By the way, it could at least validate what you're dealing with, right? And here's the last one. Just to have in your back pocket, because hey, you never know.
Yeah. It's great for preschool.
True for
I know
preschool,
everything
but
that
not
goes
only
on
for
at home.
preschool. No, any final questions or comments? Okay, you've been excellent today, so I'm going to let you out early. I'll give
Thank you.
2 minutes extra recess.
Yeah.
Okay, pleasure meeting you, and I hope that some of this was meaningful for you.
Thank
Have a
you.
great day.